I would like to ask you, Melissa, how do you define sales enablement? What does it mean to you? What are the pillars of it? Let's get some insights here.
It's funny because if you ask anyone what is sales enablement, the definition of sales enablement, you'll get 17 different answers. But to me, sales enablement is about providing the process, the tools, and the training to revenue generating customer facing functions so that they can provide the best customer experience while also closing more business faster, with the intent of building customers throughout the entire life cycle. And that's how I look at sales enablement.
Okay, great. So you also include the overall customer facing teams into sales enablement. Can you give us some more insights on who do we actually count to customer facing teams? Because there's also differences in the definition sometimes.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of organizations view sales enablement as the people who are responsible for closing new business. And the challenge with that is you potentially have a whole other side of your business that's responsible for keeping the customers that you have and growing the existing customers that you have. So I've always viewed enablement, and I think actually sales enablement is a bit of a misnomer. I prefer field enablement or sort of revenue enablement, just because you have folks who are responsible for capturing and creating new customers. But you also have folks who are responsible for keeping those customers and growing those customers. So to me, it's that entire life cycle of how do I enable the folks who are responsible for net new customers, but also how do I enable the folks who are responsible for keeping and growing the customer base so that everyone across the customer life cycle is saying the same thing, providing the same value. And that way, from the customer standpoint, there isn't this disjointed process between when they become a new customer and the people who are supporting and expanding that customer.
Okay, great. Super. Thanks for that excursus into customer facing. Wonderful. So let's dive into the key topic of today of how can we actually build a human connection with our prospect. And from your point of view, Melissa, what are the 3 tips and tricks you want to share with us on really get it as a natural connection and be human there and not automated or anything like that?
Yeah, I'd say number 1 is know who your target audience is. Know to whom it is that you are selling and what they care about. So just understanding what is going on in the head of the customer is number 1, the most critical thing to think about. Quite often I see sales pitches that are very focused on the company, very focused on, here is what we do and the benefits we provide, and the audience doesn't care. Like I actually had one client I was with on Monday, I flat out said, nobody cares about you. Really, and I mean it politely, but nobody cares about you. What the buyer cares about, what the customer cares about is themselves, and how are they going to become better by whatever product or service that you have to offer. So understanding the customer and knowing what they care about, understanding the audience is number 1. The second tip I would say is be where they are. So a lot of companies I work with aren't necessarily on social media, or their customers aren't on social media. And so their question is, do I really have to go on the LinkedIns and the Twitters? And my answer is that where your customers are? Because if your prospective buyers don't hang out on LinkedIn and they aren't getting their information on LinkedIn or on Twitter, probably doesn't make sense for you to be there either. It's just like when we were able to go in person to conferences. You wouldn't go, if you're a healthcare professional, you're not going to go to a Bitcoin conference, right? It just doesn't make any sense because those two things, that's not where your prospective buyers would be hanging out. So the first point is know who your customers are and what they care about. The second is go where they are learning information. And then the third point is be authentic and provide value. It's funny because I was just catching up on my LinkedIn prior to this, and I saw a post from one of my connections that said, stop sending me connections. I'm happy to connect, but stop selling me things as soon as I make that connection. And I couldn't agree more. I'm happy to make connections with anyone on LinkedIn. If anyone on this call wants to send me a connection on LinkedIn, I'm very happy to make that connection. What I don't like is when I accept the connection and I get an almost immediate, thanks for connecting, and then I get a sales pitch. And it's like, I'm here to make a human connection with you because mutually we have some interests in common, and we have connections in common. But if I make a connection with you and you start sales pitching me about something that is absolutely irrelevant to me, I'm now at a point where I remove the connection. I'm like, sorry, you lost your chance. It's not the way you make a human valuable connection. So be authentic and know the value that you're making in that connection would be my third point.
Okay, super. So to summarize it, the first one was know your target group and your target customer and the audience. In terms of social media, or not in terms of social media, but be where the customer is, actually act on those platforms. And the third one is be authentic and provide value to the customer. Super. So this actually leads me directly to my next question, Melissa, because whenever we interact with our prospects or customers, we should tell a story. Also, if we already have a relationship and want to further engage with a customer, number one thing, tell a story. So what are your secrets behind the art of storytelling?
Yeah, so humans love stories. I mean, we go to movies to be entertained. We watch TV shows, we binge on Netflix and on Amazon because we enjoy the stories and the plots that unfold. And the construct of telling a story is actually very specific. So my husband is a screenwriter, and there is a very specific structure he follows to develop a script, whether it be for TV or for stories. And that structure is rooted in telling an effective story. If you think about, let's use the TV show CSI, where they're in Las Vegas, and the opening of that show is not the credits. It's not, all of the credits of the TV show and everybody who's in it and everything like that. The first, 5 minutes is people are at a really hot party in Vegas. Then all of a sudden, dead body shows up, and the CSIs show up and they try to unpack exactly what's going on. And that hooks you into the story immediately. And then you get the credits and stuff like that. And then the plot unfolds. And there's no reason why you can't put that same construct into telling an effective story when you're with the buyer. Nobody wants to hear about you. They want to hear about how they're the hero and how they can benefit from leveraging your products and services. So no one likes to be pitched at, but everyone loves hearing a story. And that's storytelling is just so critical in engaging with your buyers and your customers and showing value to them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So would you say the story is one of the keys to make the customer experience when we engage with them also being the memorable experience itself?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No one likes to be pitched at. No one wakes up and says, "Oh, I can't wait to hear 5 sales pitches from different sales reps today and see all their PowerPoints." Nobody says that. But if you engage with a rep that tells you a great story about how you can benefit, and that rep provides you with a great experience, you suddenly don't view that sales rep as a sales rep anymore. You view them as a trusted advisor throughout the process with you. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, storytelling is absolutely fundamental.
Yes. And the secret to being memorized in the overall. And maybe, can we also say that something, because we had this in one of our previous talks, the story itself can be something to create our dog whistle, that we are the standout people.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and the provider to our customers. So
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any tips and tricks on creating your dog whistle, your own dog whistle? Is there anything you can share on that side?
Yeah, so I remember back when I was working at a company called Eloqua, and those marketing automation software provider have since been purchased by Oracle, went through that entire acquisition. And one of the things that we found was we had a lot of great features and functions and everything like that, but again, no one cares. No one cares about you. So one thing that our customer success organization did was actually take a look at the data and saw, why are customers buying from us, and why are they using us, and how are they using us? And when we took a look at the data, we found some really unique nuggets of how customers get value out of the platform. And that was a full data analysis. Now, if you're too small an organization to do like a full data analysis, just ask your customers, hey, I just want to spend half an hour to understand, why did you buy from us? And why do you use us? And what value are you getting out of leveraging us? And just by asking the customers that use you that simple question can open up a whole set of aha moments and dog whistle, as you put it, that says, oh, this is our secret sauce, and this is really why people are buying from us, and what makes us unique in the market. That's what I'm going to focus in on. But ask your customers, because they'll provide you with information you would have never thought of.
Great, thanks for sharing that experience. Wonderful. Okay, so with everything said so far about storytelling and how do we actually create that story around it, and what do we need to focus on? From your point of view, Melissa, how does your perfect engagement with a customer look like in order to win them, first place, and secondly, build them for life, that they stay with us?
Yeah, so the first is, don't pitch me. The first, do not pitch me. Teach me something new. Like, tell me something I don't know that I should know as a buyer. And however it relates to the product or the service that you're selling. Because nobody knows about your product or service and the value it provides better than you do as the sales rep. So if you want to connect with buyers, you need to frame up what that value is in their context. So I know that I can provide really great enablement services to customers, but why do they care? Well, they care because they're trying to make their salespeople more efficient, or they might be struggling with onboarding reps at a really rapid rate, as an example. So I'm going to talk to them about that. I'm going to talk to them about, hey, you're doing this in a certain way now. Have you thought about doing it in a different way, and teach them something new? So that's one piece. And then once you start to establish that rapport with the customer or with the prospective buyer, guide them down the process. Quite often, I see reps assume that the buyer knows how to buy, and quite often they do not, or quite often it's not a priority, right? So, the prospective buyer might be looking at you as a potential solution, but they may also be doing 15 other things on the side that have absolutely nothing to do with you. And if as a sales rep, you're not helping the buyer to prioritize you and helping the buyer buy from you, you're going to get deprioritized quickly, or your opportunity is just going to hang there in limbo and nothing ever happens. So helping the buyer buy from you and providing value at every stage of that journey with you is going to set you apart from any of the other sellers who are basically like, here's a proposal and let me know if you need any help. And it's like, well, that's not helpful. Telling me that, that I need to let you know if you need help is not going to be helpful to me. Telling me the steps that I need to take in order to buy from you, that's helpful to me, because now you've done my work for me. And I think a lot of reps really miss that. And then the final piece is making sure the handoff, like if they do buy from you, handing them off to whomever handles the post-sales process in an effective way, that creates a really great experience. The analogy I always use is it's like a relay race, and every member of your organization is in the relay and the customer is the baton. And as a sales rep, if you're not effectively handing that baton over to the post-sales team, then you drop the baton and you lose the race. And that's not a great customer experience. So you want to make sure that as a team, you're all collectively enabling the customer so they feel like they're they've made the great decision of purchasing your product or your service.
Okay, great. I love this analogy to the team of the railing race. That's super. To summarize it for the audience, I added in that don't bitch at me. First one. We heard that various times now. Tell me something new and add value to me as the customer, and don't tell about myself, who I am as the provider. Guide me as the customer through the process of buying in the end, and give me a clean, smooth handover to the post-sales process, that everything keeps on running smoothly in order to keep really going. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Melissa. So, wow, time is flying again. We are already almost at the end. And before Melissa, before I want to add in the questions which we got from our customers, sorry, from our participants, I would like to ask you one thing. And I mean, we heard anything about Corona for the last weeks already, and I think it's an important topic. However, following your social media and your postings, I also saw that you have a passion and put a lot of attention to Black Lives Matters initiatives. And is there anything you would like to share with the audience here and draw attention to?
Yeah, so thank you for asking that. I've just through the events over the last few months, it's become obvious that, so I am Armenian by background, but just through the function of the color of my skin, I have privileges associated that folks and people of color do not. So I'm an advocate of, if I have the platform and I have the voice, I'm going to use it to amplify some things. So I live in Toronto, Canada, and I try to support my local charities as much as I can, because I love my city and I love the people who live in the city. And I'm also an advocate for women's equality and rights. So two functions that do a lot of really great work here in Toronto, and I encourage you all to look up your local chapters as well, is a charity called Black Women in Motion. And they're Toronto based, and it's just at Black Women in Motion. And they are a youth-led organization that empowers and supports Black women and survivors of sexual violence. And they are gender neutral, anti-racist, and they try to create healing spaces for folks that are either LGBTQ, are going through trans surgeries, are just women, heterosexual women and have experienced sexual violence. They do a great job of reaching out to the community and empowering those folks. So that's just one example of one of the causes that I feel really passionate about. And again, I encourage everyone to look up your local charities and give them a helping hand, because especially now in Corona, it's hitting a lot of folks, and especially folks of color and folks who are less fortunate than certainly I am. So it's always good to just help out right now, because a lot of folks are going through some stuff.
Thank you. I think that's wonderful. And thanks for sharing that with us. All right. So I see we have some questions, Melissa, from the audience.
Okay.
Let's see which ones we're going to take. First one. What is your strategy when your story has to address multiple individuals in the decision-making unit in different roles? Or how do you deal with multiple roles and owners in the decision-making unit, to rephrase it?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because I'm very passionate and sometimes anti what you might see out there. So marketers, and I love marketers, they're very persona based. So here are the personas you sell to, and here's what each of those personas care about. And I absolutely think that's important. But even more important is what are the business reasons why people buy from you? And the business reasons tend to be more constant across personas than the personas tend to be across selling use cases. So when you have multiple personas, you have multiple people, they all may care about different things, but they care about slightly different things as it relates to the same business challenge that the organization is trying to solve. So you absolutely should know who's in the room, or in the room if we're in virtual rooms like this, and address what they care about, but all in the context of the business challenge that the organization is solving by leveraging your product or service.
Okay, great, thank you. Next question. What is the best way to keep momentum in lead and opportunity development? How do you keep the customer moving forward to a conclusion?
That's an interesting one, especially now in remote situations where you can't like walk into their office and knock on the door and say, hey, here's a basket of croissants. How are things going? The important thing to remember is what is going on with the buyer. Just because you have a quota that you have to meet by the end of a month or by the end of a quarter, the customer doesn't care about your quota. So you trying to move them along because you have a number to hit is going to do absolutely nothing to move them along. With a very rare exception, I used to work with one rep who actually did call his customers and say, you know, my kid wants to go to college. Can you please close this deal by this date? But that was how he built rapport with his customers, and I don't recommend that with everybody. He had that kind of attitude that was very appealing. What you need to think about is why isn't the customer moving to the next stage? So if the customer has lost momentum or they've stalled, think about, okay, what's going on in their head right now? And have I answered all of the questions that they would be asking themselves at this stage of their journey with me? And what would be making them hesitate? Is it because I didn't paint enough value for them? Is it they're just fearing of making a decision because they're worried about their bosses getting annoyed? Is there a budget problem right now? And things, I mean, Corona is a great example. All budgets get locked down because everyone's concerned about where they're going to be in 2 weeks. So again, think about where the buyer is at and what's going on with them, and see what questions you can answer to move them along the journey with you.
Great, thank you. Maybe one or two more, if okay for you.
Sure.
What is the right balance between providing content, discovery, and directly addressing in a possible project when contacting?
Okay, so discovery is one of my dirty words. I am not a fan of using the term discovery because, again, nobody cares about you. Quite often, discovery is from the perspective of the vendor. I am doing discovery on you, customer, to determine whether or not you fit in my criteria of an opportunity. And again, customer doesn't care about you. So if you're asking them a bunch of discovery questions and the intent of the questions is to qualify them in or out, then you're not doing the buyer any kind of value or service or favors. So think about, I always tell my sellers and anyone I work with, why are you calling them? What is the purpose of your call with them or your email to them? And if the purpose is, I'm trying to move them along in my buying journey, customer doesn't care. So if you're going to be sending an email, if you're going to be sending a LinkedIn connection, if you're going to be making a phone call, make sure that that connection is valuable to the buyer and that they get something out of it. And if they get something out of it, they will move along the journey with you because they feel like, oh, this was a valuable connection. So the balance is any connection that you make, why am I making it? And make sure that the reason why I'm making it is about the buyer and not about me as the seller.
Great, thank you. Wonderful. All right, so almost last question, Melissa.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Where'd the time go?
Running. It's, I could teach you for another hour, but yeah, unfortunately. Melissa, are there any things, you know, books, podcasts, or any special event in your life that had a big influence, or even a person you want to share with our audience, what had a big impact and what made you who you are today?
Yeah, so I have been, since I was 3 years old, I have been a huge Walt Disney fan. My parents took me to Walt Disney World when I was a kid, when I was 3 years old, and I've been a fan of the movies and the books and everything ever since. And not just because of there's certainly a storytelling aspect, which I love, and the fantasy aspect of it. But one of the things that Disney was fond of saying was, if you can dream it, you can do it. And I've always found that my sort of guiding, my North Star of, you know what, anything is possible. If I can think of it, if I can dream it, it's probably one of the reasons why I became a mechanical engineer. Like, if I can dream it, I can do it. and also how Disney creates their customer experience and their buying experience and their theme park experience. The way they do all of that has always been an inspiration to me.
Great, wonderful. I love that too. I mean, think big, do it.
Yeah, why not?
Try it, why not? All right, so you mentioned LinkedIn before as one of the sources to connect with you. Are there any other ways participants can reach out to you if they want to get in touch with you?
Yep, LinkedIn's definitely a good one. I'm also on Twitter and on Instagram, and it's just at Melissa Madian. And I have a website, which is just www.melissamadian.com. Very easy to connect with me. And certainly I absolutely do. If you want to send me a LinkedIn request, please do. I always like personalized LinkedIn requests so that I know you came from this webinar and that you enjoyed it. So definitely feel free to connect with me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Melissa, for your time today and for joining us and sharing your valuable experience and insights. I really loved speaking with you. As I mentioned before, time is flying. Unfortunately, we are at the end of our time. Thank you again, and I'm definitely going to reach out again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Britta. It was great. Bye, everyone.
All right, everyone. I hope you also enjoyed this talk today as much as I did with Melissa. As a short info for next week, I will be speaking with Witness Ziyech, the Senior Director of Enablement and Outreach, and we will speak about discovery and why it never ends. So join again. Speak to you soon. Bye. Thank you.